Yes, ma'am.
John Brewer has been in the hospital since a week ago on Tuesday with COVID, and he's in intensive care. And last night, or yesterday afternoon, they found a blood clot in his liver. So he is not doing well.
So that's Don Brewer. Is that correct? Yeah. Don Brewer? Okay. All right, I'll see to it that he's put on our list here. All right. Well, folks, why don't we go ahead and take our Bibles then this morning? And while it's not yet Christmas, I'm looking forward to getting to that date when we do go and study the Christmas story. But we're going to be continuing on with our study of Elijah, who we've been calling the Outlaw Prophet. This guy that served God, but as far as his kingdom and his country was concerned, he was very much hated. They didn't like this guy at all. They were hunting him down, and he was on the run from his king. So let's take our Bibles and we'll go to the book of 1 Kings, chapter number 17. 1 Kings, chapter number 17. As we're studying Elijah's life and the works that we had done, or that he had done. What we've seen so far is Elijah, really, we don't know a whole lot about where he came from. You just have this guy, he randomly shows up on the stage, and the time where he's the nation of Israel is in a very, very bad place. A few generations back, Israel had a civil war, right? They split, and now you had kind of the north and the south part of the country, and now you have two different kings, and they're always kind of at odds with one another. And the one particular king that's in rule right now, his name is Ahab. Ahab was a wicked, wicked guy. The Bible says of all the kings that ever ruled in his position, he was the worst one. He was a guy that brought in false gods. He brought in idol worship. He brought in some evil, evil things. And the best as we can historically understand, they were offering up their own children as sacrifices. This was God's people that got steeped into this false idol worship, this pagan stuff. It was bad. So now you have Elijah, God's man. He just kind of shows up on scene. We don't know his backstory. The Bible doesn't give us. But he walks up into the king's chambers and he says, "Hey, Ahab, I want you to know it's not going to rain for 3 years. You're not going to have rain or dew." And actually, he didn't even say 3 years. He just says, "You're not going to have rain or dew until I say so." And ended up being about 3 years. And so he left. He walked away. Then the next thing you know, it didn't rain. I mean, 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, it didn't rain. And God told Elijah, "You're not very well liked right now. You need to go and hide out for a while." So he did. Elijah went, and he went down to a place called the Brook of Cherith. And there was like a little river there, and he would hang out, and he got to drink from the river. And the Bible says that birds would bring him food while he was there. We don't know. Wow, my sound system's going crazy today. We don't know how long he was there, but we know it was long enough that the brook dried up. I mean, the drought was so bad that the water stopped flowing. So then he had to leave. And this is kind of where we pick up our story today. When the brook finally did dry up, God says, "All right, I've got somewhere now I want you to go. I want you to go somewhere different." So we're going to pick up. Let's start reading here in verse number 8. So chapter 17, verse number 8. The Bible says this. "And the word of the Lord came unto him," that's Elijah, "saying, Arise, get thee to Zarephath, which belongeth to Zidon, and dwell there. Behold, I have commanded a widow woman there to sustain thee." So he arose and went to Zarephath. And when he came to the gate of the city, behold, the widow woman was there gathering of sticks. And he called to her and said, "Fetch me, I pray thee, a little water in a vessel." And as she was going to fetch it, he called to her and said, "Bring me, I pray thee, a morsel of bread in thine hand." And she said, "As the Lord thy God liveth, I have not a cake, a handful of meal in a barrel, and a little oil in a cruse. And behold, I am gathering 2 sticks, that I may go in and dress it for me and my son, that we may eat it and die." And Elijah said unto her, "Fear not, go and do as thou hast said, but make me thereof a little cake first, and bring it unto me, and after make for thee and thy son. For thus saith the Lord God of Israel, the barrel of meal shall not waste, neither shall the cruse of oil fail until the day that the Lord sendeth rain upon the earth." And she went and did according to the saying of Elijah. And she and he and her house did eat many days, and the barrel of meal wasted not, neither did the cruse of oil fail, according to the word of the Lord which he spake by Elijah. So now here's the story that we've just read. This is what we came across. So Elijah, he's over there by the brook. That's where he'd been hanging out. Now the water's dried up. And God says, "Elijah, I got someone I want you to go visit for me. Go over here to Zarephath. You're going to find a widow woman there. It's her and her son, and that's where you're going to go stay. And you're going to live there for a while. So Elijah says, well, all right, yes, Lord, that's where you want me to go. So he gets up and he leaves and he walks over there. And he sees this widow woman out there picking up sticks outside. And he calls to her and he says, ma'am, I got a job for you. Why don't you go and fix me some food? I need a biscuit. The Bible says a meal. Fix me a cake is what they called it. And she says, sir, you don't understand. We have nothing left. I've got just a handful of meal, and I'm picturing, some kind of flour. We've got a handful of meal, and I've got just a little bit of oil left in my jar, and that's going to be enough for me and my son to have one last meal, then we're going to die. She said, we have nothing left. We have no food. We have no oil. We have no more flour after this little bit, and we're done. So Elijah says this. And the first time I heard this story, I actually kind of scratched my head. I'm like, man, he's being selfish. But here's what he said, and we're going to talk about why. He says, I understand the problem you're going through, but here's what I want you to do. I want you to go make me a little piece out of what you've got. Give me just a little bit of it. Make me some. And then whatever's left over, you and your son can eat that. And then we'll just kind of go from there. But I want you to make me a little bit first. And so the lady says, well, I guess maybe in her mind, she's thinking we're dead anyway. So she goes ahead and makes it. She makes him a little cake and gives it to Elijah. Now here's the neat part. They ate that little bit of food that she had left. And the next day, when they got up, they looked into that little jar of oil that she's had, and there was still oil left in there, even though she had poured it all out the day before. And then she looked down in her little jar where she had her flour and she had her meal, and she looked down in there, and there was more meal in there for the next day. And then so they ate that up for that day, and then they got up the next morning, and there was more in there for the next day. Folks, day after day after day, when they went back, the Bible says her jar of oil never ran out. And her, jar, whatever it is she had her flour in, it never wasted away. When you see that last verse, in verse number 16, notice it. And the barrel of meal wasted not, neither did the cruse of oil fail, according to the word of the Lord, which he had spake by Elijah. So folks, Elijah said, if you'll trust God, if you will give me a little piece, God will make sure that you are taken care of from now on. You'll never have to worry about any other meal or oil. So now here's my thought. One of the things I've started cooking with is I like cooking with olive oil, and I've got this little jar by the thing, so when I'm frying and stuff, I throw it in there. But I always watch the thing go down. I have to pop the lid off and fill it up. But boy, it would be neat if every time I use it, I sat it back down and the thing was still full. That stuff's actually expensive. Man, I'd love to never have to buy it again. But could you imagine that never running out? And every time you're going over to your jar, you pop the lid off and the thing is still full? See, that's what God did. Now, I'm going to take a look at this and see how Elijah, this guy who was already an outlaw, how he went to this lady's house. And there's some things amongst this that I want us to learn from Elijah's life. Now, the first one, we're going to have to take a little half step back, but it's something I think is very important for us to learn. Remember how we said Elijah was over here by the brook? And while he was at the brook Cherith, he was drinking from this, and he was just sitting back. He was relaxing. He had been there for weeks and weeks. And, well, I almost wonder if he didn't start fishing in that brook once in a while because he had nothing else to do. And here are the ravens. They're coming in. They're bringing him food. And then next thing you know, he goes down to the brook, and the brook's dried up. Now, isn't that where God sent him, though? Didn't God send him down to that river? And didn't God tell the birds to bring him food? Well, how come God let that brook dry up? And that's kind of the question that I had. How come now all of a sudden God's telling him to go to Zarephath when he already had him set up over here by the brook? Why does he have to go somewhere else? And then the thought came to my mind this, and this is something we see several times throughout the Bible. Folks, God's plan, sometimes it changes. And then I thought about this. Maybe the word change isn't the best. Maybe the better word would be it progresses. God's plan progresses. Things do not always stay locked in. Just because God picks me up and puts me here one day and this is where I am, it doesn't mean this is where I'm going to stay for the rest of my life. Sometimes God will take me over here as he did with Elijah, and he put him in a resting place. Elijah, I just want you to sit here and chill out for a little while. I want you to get some rest. Then after he got his rest and the brook dried up, okay, now Elijah, we got somewhere else I want you to go. Folks, don't ever think that God is just going to put you somewhere and this is where you're going to be for the rest of your life. I want us to be people that are looking for open doors. What if we end up moving somewhere in the next 6 months? I've actually, this is a personal story. I'm a person, I like to plan as best as I can. I know plans end up going to the wind sometimes. But I remember when I first got out of high school, I was getting ready to go to college, and I was going to be learning. I went to this school, and this school was out of state. It was away from home. And I got to this school, and I went one semester there. And where the dorms, if you want to call them that, weren't really dorms. They were more or less barracks. It was a hallway with bunk beds, right? And all the guys were just crammed into this thing. And so, we where our buddies were, and we used to hang out, and we would do the things that guys do. We'd have boxing matches and stuff in there. Anyway, I remember I had fun. I enjoyed being at college. I enjoyed staying in there with the other guys and all the crazy stuff we got into. But I went through the first semester. And after the first semester, I was thinking to myself, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stay here for my 4 years. And if nothing changes between now and 4 years, I'm going to go ahead and go for another 2 years and just continue on my degree. Hey, I might even get to keep on at this. And then afterwards, I'll find out where God wants me to go from there. Now, here's the funny thing. I had this thing all planned out. I thought that's where I was going to stay. And in about 2 weeks, I found myself at a completely different school. And my head is spinning. I'm trying to think, Lord, how did this happen? Lord, this was not according to my plan. This is not what I wanted. Now, it wasn't because I got kicked out, okay? I want you guys to know that. It was honestly something that the Lord did not want me there. There were some things going on in the school that wasn't right for where I needed to be. Anyway, so watch this. God quite literally picked me up on Friday and had me at a different school on Monday. And I was here and my head was spinning. I'm thinking, Lord, why did you change things? Why am I here? Now, I look back. That was when I was 19. I'm now 31. So I look back to that moment, and it was because of that move that I ended up dating Tori, and I now have my wife and 3 kids. And B, it is because of that move that, believe it or not, I find myself in this very room today. Because of God's change of plan. Now, here's what I want you to understand. Sometimes God is going to throw your life upside down. Sometimes God's plan is in our mind going to change. And it's not that God flip-flops. It's just that God is going through His plan in your life. And sometimes that progresses. That may move you to a new place. That may move you to a new stage of life. I don't know what that's going to look like for you. But don't ever feel like that we're just locked in. Allow God to work. Allow God to move. Allow things to change. So God sent Elijah to the brook. Now the brook dried up. Lord, you sent me here. Now the brook's dry. Now what? Don't worry. I got you something else. Folks, there may be a day where you are that the brook dries up. You may find that one day, even in here in Big Timber, Montana, there's nothing left for you, and God may put you somewhere else. That very well could happen. If that does, don't forget. It could just be that God's plan is moving you to somewhere else even better, or something else that He has planned for you in the future. So He took Elijah away from the brook. Now let's continue on. Let's go into where our story actually begins today. So the word of the Lord came unto him, saying, Arise and get thee to Zarephath. So he went. And so there he arose and went to Zarephath, and when he came to the gates of the city, behold, a widow woman was there. So he comes up to this widow woman. Now here's the neat thing about this widow woman. Remember what we had said about Israel and Judah at this time? How King Ahab was that wicked king? What did we say about the people? For generations now, they had already moved away from God. Okay, they were not a godly people. Now all of a sudden, this one lady that he happens to walk up and find, well, God sent him there. But this one lady, we find out she's someone that happens to believe in the Lord. She looks at Elijah and talks about, hey, Elijah, you and your God. And she talks about them and acknowledges that is God. I find it very interesting that God sends Elijah to someone else that is also a believer in the things of God. That he realizes that maybe Elijah does need someone else. And here's kind of the point I'm going to make. I'm going to show it to you. While this deviates from our first point, folks, realize that as Christians, we do good to help each other. That there are times that we need each other. Now, here's me and maybe my bold mindset. Well, I don't need anyone. Hey, just me and God. That's the only people I need. Just me and God, we can handle it on our own. And can God do that? Yeah. Has God ever had people by themselves? Yeah. But I want to show you something. More often than not, God sends His blessings through other people. That's something you're going to find. God could be waiting to send a blessing to someone else through you. And God could be ready and waiting to send a blessing to you through someone else. I'm going to show it to you. So here's this widow woman, her and her son. They're getting ready to eat. And they're going to eat their last meal, and they're going to die. Now God is ready to send them the blessing of food. He wants them to survive through this drought. He wants them to survive it. Now, could God have went ahead and started doing the miracle on his own? Yep. God didn't have to send Elijah. But instead, God sent the man of God. God sent Elijah to this lady and used Elijah to work that miracle. Why did he do that? Because God uses other people. Yeah, he can do it on his own, but he uses us. And I want to tell you something. God wants to use you in someone else's life. Are you ready and willing to be a blessing to someone else? You know, the Bible talks about even if I do something as simple as give someone a cold water, I might be doing that in Jesus' name, and I wouldn't lose my reward for it. See, this is where, and I love this, because this fits right into Christmas time, right? At Christmas time, we're already thinking about giving and how we can be a blessing to other people. I didn't understand this when I was a kid, but now as an adult, it makes sense. You know, it's almost just as fun giving gifts to someone else and watching them smile and watching them have a good time. That's almost just as fun, and really probably even more fun than getting something, isn't it? You know, don't we love trying to search and find and get that perfect gift, you know, like whether it be for your wife or for your kids. And then you tear open the gifts on Christmas morning, and boy, the kids are just having so much fun. And then the little one, like Mac, he's just going to be over there tearing up cardboard boxes, and he's going to think it's going to be the greatest thing in the world, you know? Why? Because that's what kids do. They have fun with it. But, you know, as a dad, I get to be a blessing to my wife. I get to be a blessing to my kids. I get to be a blessing to other people. And God is able to use us in other people's lives. And if we'll look for those opportunities, He'll give them to us. And, you know, sometimes I wonder, how many blessings have been missed out on other people because I wasn't available to deliver it? How many blessings have other people missed because I didn't take it there? You know, there could be that God is ready and willing to do something for someone. What if Elijah would have said, "No, God, I'm not going to Zarephath. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to that widow woman's house." Could God have still done the miracle? Yeah. I mean, was God able to do that to begin with? Yeah. But God wanted to use Elijah. So she needed the man of God to bring that miracle. Now watch this. This is actually kind of neat. As we continue to read, and we'll, let's go ahead and look at it. I'll look at verse number 17. And it came to pass after these things that the son of the woman, the mistress of the house, fell sick. And we're going to talk about this miracle more next week. And his sickness was so sore that there was no breath left in him. And she said unto Elijah, "What have I to do with thee, O thou man of God? Art thou come unto me to call my sin to remembrance and to slay my son?" And he said unto her, "Give me thy son." And he took him out of her bosom and carried him up into a loft where he abode and laid him on his bed. So I'll give you a sneak peek. Elijah ends up raising this widow woman's son from the dead, which is our story for next time. But the point is this. I wanted you to see that in this widow woman's house now, gave Elijah a room. He had a loft upstairs in their house, and now he had a place to live. So Elijah, he came and brought this miracle, and now she was able to give Elijah a place to stay. Now, could God have provided Elijah a place to stay? Yeah, of course he could. He already did it by the brook one time. But now Elijah is using this widow to be a blessing to him. I want you to see the picture. Folks, here we are in the house of God, as the people of God. And it is our job to be a blessing to one another. There may be someone here, even in this room, this morning, waiting on a blessing from you, and you don't even know it. God right now may have a blessing for someone to deliver. Are your eyes open and looking for it? Are we in that attitude of, how can I be a blessing to this person? What can I do to help them? And it's that spirit of giving and that willingness. And it's an amazing thing. I don't know why God does it. Why God would choose to use somebody as messed up as I am. Yeah, I mean, really, I don't want to get into my personal stuff, but I'm not a very great person. I mean, when I look in the mirror, there's a lot of things I need to work on. But why would God look at me and say, "Hey, you're the person that I want to use"? Why would God look at this widow woman who had nothing? All she had was a son. Her husband was dead, and she was literally going to eat her last meal and just die. I mean, I wonder if in the back of her mind she was wondering, I hope I get to be a blessing to someone today. No, she was literally just worried about staying alive. but God was still ready and willing to use her. Folks, if we are willing to be used, God will use us. And sometimes that's just as simple as being a ray of sunshine in someone's life. You know, giving them a friendly phone call, giving them maybe something as simple as a meal. Folks, God could have provided these things, but he decided to use someone else. So she needed the man of God, and he needed the widow to provide him a place to stay. God used them each other. So here's something else I want to show you, and then we'll kind of spend a little bit more time here, and then we'll be finished up. I also want to show you that God honors faith. God honors faith. So look at what he said here in verse number 11. Verse number 11. And as she was going to fetch it, talking about that meal, he called to her and said, bring me, I pray thee, a morsel of bread in thine hand. So Elijah said, hey, I'm hungry. Would you feed me? And she said, as the Lord thy God liveth, I have not a cake, but a handful of meal in a barrel, and a little oil in a cruse. And behold, I am gathering 2 sticks. Man, that's not even much. 2 sticks, that I may go in and dress it for me and my son, that we may eat it and die. And Elijah said unto her, fear not, go and do as thou hast said, but make me thereof of what you've got, just a little cake first, and bring it unto me, and after make it for thee and thy son. So now here's the test. This is what I want to get at. So we know that she does. She goes and she takes that handful of meal she's got, and she says, well, it was enough for 2, but I'm going to divide it up 3 different ways. She divides it up, makes a little piece for Elijah, gives it to him, and then makes a little bit for her and her son, and she eats that. And while it wasn't much, she had faith that if she did what she ought to do, if she took that and gave it to the man of God, that God would also in turn take care of her. Because look at what Elijah said in verse number 12. And she said, as the Lord thy God liveth, I have not a cake, but a handful of meal in a barrel, and a little oil in a cruse. And behold, I am gathering 2 sticks, that I may go and dress it for me and my son, that we may eat it and die. Verse number 13. And Elijah said unto her, fear not. Go and do as thou hast said, but make me a little cake first, and bring it unto me, and after it make for thee and thy son. Verse number 14. But thus saith the Lord God of Israel, the barrel of oil shall not waste, neither shall the cruse of oil fail until the day that the Lord sendeth rain upon the earth. So, here's what we're seeing. This widow woman was given a test. She was given a test. She had literally a handful of this stuff left. Elijah, the man of God, says to her, if you will do what I have just said, if you will make a little piece for me and then go and feed you and your son, but if you will save a little piece for me, I promise you, you'll have enough until the rain comes again. You will have enough. That is from the Word of God. You will have enough. So now the ball is in the widow woman's court. She has to ask herself, okay, am I just going to write this guy off as a hack and go ahead and take what little bit I can and me and my son are going to eat it? Or am I going to take my last little bit of food and am I going to give it to this stranger that just walked up to my door and says he's the man of God? What am I going to do? You see, that's an act of faith, isn't it? God is not asking you to do something great and do something wonderful. We talked about it a couple weeks ago. We said, what is that you already have in your hand? All she had in her hand was just a little handful of flour. It was nothing. But I want to tell you, God can take nothing. And if we will give it to Him, He can do something great with it. I'll tell you a story. I remember when I was a kid, and I actually brought this in here as a church, as an illustration once. I brought in what was my little red toolbox. I remember I was a kid. I was single digits still. And I remember my granddad, he was a carpenter. I loved hanging out with my granddad. You know, he taught me how to use a hammer and drills and saws and stuff. And I used to just go and tinker. It was fun just to take a nail and learn how to drive it into a 2x4 when I was a kid. Funny story, I've got a scar on my head from the claws on a hammer from doing that. But anyways, I remember I was down at my granddad's shop and he would show me how to use tools. And I remember we went to the hardware store once and I was just looking around. I like looking at the tools. And my granddad, he bought me a handsaw. And it was a little shorty handsaw. It was only about this long. And I remember thinking, oh man, this is great. Now I've got a tool for my toolbox. And I put that thing, I had it down in my little red toolbox. And I was just so proud. And I remember I got back to my granddad's shop and I wanted to learn how to use this saw. And so I took it, and I was just a little guy, and I'm trying to saw on this 2x4, and it wouldn't work. I guess I was too little. But I remember I would take the thing, and the saw would bend this way, and it would bend that way, and then I would start a little groove, and it would fall out of the groove, and I just couldn't get it to work. And I remember my granddad, he walked over, he says, "Let me show you." And then he took the thing, and he took a 2x4, and he put it up on his workbench, and he started sawing on it, and the next thing I know, just sawdust, it spit out, because it was a new saw. And then he started cutting through that thing, and I remember looking at my granddad just going, "How are you doing this? How is it working for you but not for me?" Right? "Granddad, how are you taking the same thing that I've got and you're doing something different?" You see, it was the same saw, wasn't it? Of someone else. Now watch this. That handful of flour that this lady had, it was the same flour, but figuratively speaking, she put it in the hands of someone else. She said, "Lord, I don't have much, but I'm just going to trust you with it. You said that you won't let me and my son die if I feed your man over here. Fine, I'll feed your man. I'll go ahead and give it to you." And when she took that insignificant little bit of flour and handed it over to the Lord, then God was able to say, "Now watch me do something with it." And then every day when she got back up, her cruse was back full of oil. And every day when she went to cook again, her barrel had more flour in it. Why? Because she took something simple and just turned it over to God. Now, folks, here's what I want us to see. You might not have much to give, but you don't think it's much just because, well, that's our eyes, isn't it? I was a little kid holding this saw in my hand. I'm thinking, this saw isn't much. It doesn't work. No, it worked. It was just in the hands of the wrong person. Folks, if we take what we've got, as small and as insignificant as it may seem, if we will give that thing and put it into the hands of God and say, "God, I want you to take this and use it," He will. You might have some kind of gift of something as simple as, I don't know, being able to be a good listener. The good thing about being a listener is you just kind of sit and listen. That's a problem that I have. Sometimes just sitting and listening. But you might say, "Hey, I'm a good listener." You know what? You might be the perfect person just to go sit and visit with someone and just to listen and to be a blessing to them. Now you might say, "Oh, that's a simple gift," but I'm going to tell you what, for someone else in the hands of God, you might be the best blessing that person's had in years because you're just able to sit and listen. You see, and while that might be something simple, you have to figure out what gift you have, what maybe small, insignificant thing you have. And then tell the Lord, "Lord, I'm going to give it to you, and I want you to take it, and I want you to use it." And then you can be that blessing in someone else's life. Can God give blessings without people? Yeah. But for whatever reason, God chooses to use us. We are the delivery tools of those blessings. We are the mailmen, so to speak, of those blessings. And I apologize for that, this popping. But folks, here's 3 things that we've seen out of Elijah today. Man, he worked this miracle. God was able to use him. But we learned 3 things, and it was kind of different categories, but they all apply. We said your life may end up suddenly getting off track, just like it did with Elijah's. God picked him up and moved him somewhere else. Doesn't mean God doesn't care. It just means maybe God's plan is progressing. He wants you somewhere else in life. He's putting you somewhere else for some other reason. We don't know. But we just allow God to keep working. And then we've said, as with the widow woman, folks, we need each other. We really do. Why? Because we are the mailmen of God's blessings. He puts those blessings in us and allows us to be a blessing to other people, and so others can be a blessing to me. If I just decide that one day I want to be a hermit, I want to go be a mountain man. I'm going to go up here in the crazies, and I'm never going to talk to anyone else ever again. Well, it's probably going to be pretty hard for me to see God working in someone's life because I'm all alone. We need each other, and other people need us. And then we saw, lastly, from this widow woman, folks, God honors faith. God honors faith. She had enough faith to say, "God, here it is. It's not much. It's just a little bit of flour, but I'm going to give it to you." If we can take something simple and put it in the hands of God, just like that saw that I had, God can do more with it than we ever would have thought. So what is it that you've got? What is some kind of small, insignificant thing that maybe it's an ability you have. Maybe it is an actual thing. Well, I don't know. But what is something that you can turn over to God and say, "God, I want you to do something with it"? I remember this, and we'll close. You guys remember the story of the little boy that had 5 loaves and 2 fishes? It was just a little lunch. It wasn't much. It was enough for him. But he said, "All right, Lord, I'm going to give it to you. I hope he doesn't eat all my lunch and I don't have anything left." Maybe that boy was thinking, I don't know. But he gave it over to God. And what did God do? God fed over 5,000 people with one little basket of food. It was insignificant. It was nothing. But in the hands of God, it was great. And you know what? I could probably say the same thing about us as people. Don't ever think that you are nothing. Quite literally, you are loved enough that someone died for you. And if you will put yourself in the hands of God, God can use you. And God will do something great through your life. So folks, let's have every head bowed. Let's have every eye closed. And here for just a moment, let us dwell on this thought of being used by the Lord. You know, you might be in a place where suddenly God is picking you up and putting you somewhere else. Maybe He's doing that so you can be a blessing to someone. Maybe your whole life has just gotten thrown off track. Well, maybe God has a purpose for it. And folks, don't forget that we need each other. We need each other for the blessings to be delivered to one another, and that whatever it is that we've got, let's be faithful and give it to Him. Lord, we love you. And Lord, we're thankful for all the things that you've done for us, how you care for us, and Lord, for how you've loved us. Lord, I pray that you would help us to take a look at our lives, and Lord, whatever things that we have that we can give to you, may we be willing to turn them over to you and not to hold anything back. Now, folks, with every head bowed and with every eye closed, this is going to be a brief moment for you to be able to do business with the Lord. I want you to go ahead and ask yourself right now, in the quietness of your own heart and in the quietness of your own mind, what is something you have? Maybe not a thing, maybe it's a gift, maybe it's just your personality, whatever it is. What is something about you that you can turn over to God? And through faith, let it be used of God. Folks, I want to tell you, you may be able to be the best blessing in someone else's life that you would have never even imagined. Just a few more moments to do business with the Lord. Don't ever consider yourself insignificant. While maybe in and of ourselves we don't feel like we're much, but through God we are loved. And He died for us that our sins could be pardoned. And with our pardoned sins, we can have a way into heaven free and clear. Folks, don't leave here today without knowing for sure that Jesus Christ is your Savior. Our God in heaven, again, we love you. We want to come to you today and ask that you would help us to look for these ways that we can be a blessing to others. Help us not to neglect looking out for one another and helping one another. Lord, so often in the Bible, you used people to be blessings to people. And I pray that whatever it is that we have, what abilities we have, what things we can do, may we use them for your honor. May we turn them over to you and to be used of you. Lord, I pray that you would use us as your people. Now, Lord, bless us again and ask as we get ready to go into this Christmas time. Lord, we look forward to the next couple of weeks where we can turn our hearts and minds towards you and the birth of Jesus Christ. Lord, I'm always excited for this time of year. So I pray that you would bless us now as we get ready to leave and to go into our next class here in a few minutes. We love you, Lord, and it's in your name. Amen. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here again this morning. I hope you have a wonderful Christmas season. Feel free to stick around here in about 15 or 20 minutes. We'll have another study of some of these things that we've been talking about with different worldviews and thoughts around the world and how they compare to the Bible. I've got a pretty interesting one that, again, you've probably heard on TV and the news and school and whatever else all around you. We're going to talk about it as it compares to the Bible. So, all right. Well, guys, we love you, and we are dismissed.
There's something I learned about last